Anytime it's Valentine's Day, I would always remember the year I lost everything and gained everything back in the span of 72 hours. The year my boss tried to destroy my life to fund a luxury vacation with his mistress. The year I learned that revenge isn't just sweet. When done correctly, it's absolutely devastating. My name is Nicole, and this is the story of how I turned a termination into total annihilation. Before I get into it, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I love connecting with people all over the world. And if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, someone who smiled in your face while planning to stab you in the back, go ahead and hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel because I share real stories about real revenge. And trust me, you're going to want to share this one with everyone you know. Now, let me take you back to February 2023. I was a senior pharmaceutical sales representative for Meridian Biohealth, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the country. I'd been with the company for 8 years, worked my way up from an entry-level sales associate to one of their top performers. My territory covered the entire northeastern region, and I was good at my job. Really good. My boss was a man named Richard Thornton, 52 years old, silver hair, expensive suits, the kind of smile that made hospital administrators feel like they were talking to a trusted friend instead of a salesman. He'd been with Meridian for 20 years, worked his way up to regional vice president. Everyone respected him, everyone trusted him, including me. That was my first mistake. For 6 months, I'd been working on the biggest deal of my career. St. Catherine's Hospital Network, a chain of 12 hospitals across 5 states, was looking to overhaul their entire pharmaceutical supply contract. We're talking about everything: cancer medications, cardiac drugs, surgical supplies, antibiotics, everything. The contract was worth $40 million over 3 years. I'd spent half a year building relationships with their procurement team, their chief medical officer, their board of directors. I'd flown to meetings in Boston, Philadelphia, Hartford, Providence. I'd created detailed presentations showing how our medications had better patient outcomes, lower side effect profiles, stronger safety records. I'd negotiated pricing, delivery schedules, training programs for their pharmacy staff, and in January, I closed it. $40 million, the single largest contract in our region's history. Richard was thrilled. He took me to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the city, told me I was the future of the company, said this deal would change both of our careers. He promised me my commission check would be delivered on Valentine's Day, the traditional bonus day at Meridian. 15% commission on a $40 million deal. $6 million. My bonus was going to be $900,000. $900,000. For most people, that would be life-changing money. For me, it was literally life-saving. My mother had been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer 18 months earlier. The treatments were brutal and expensive. Even with insurance, we were drowning in medical bills. Chemotherapy, radiation, experimental treatments, medications to manage the side effects of other medications. My father had passed away 3 years before from a heart attack, so I was her only support system, her only caregiver, her only source of income. I'd been working 16-hour days, flying across 5 states, closing deals while managing my mother's care from hospital waiting rooms and hotel rooms. I'd missed her chemo appointments because I was in meetings. I'd taken calls with hospital executives while sitting in oncology waiting rooms. I'd sacrificed everything for that deal. Because that $900,000 meant my mother could get the treatment she needed. The experimental immunotherapy that insurance wouldn't cover. The specialists at Johns Hopkins who were having breakthrough results. The home care nurse who could stay with her when I had to travel. That money meant my mother had a chance to live. And I'd earned it. I'd earned every single dollar of that commission. February 13th started like any other Tuesday. I woke up at 5:30, made coffee, checked my emails. My mother was having a good morning, which meant the nausea from her latest round of chemo had finally subsided enough for her to eat some toast. Small victories. I drove to the office, walked through the glass doors of Meridian's regional headquarters, smiled at the receptionist. It was the day before Valentine's Day. The office was decorated with red and pink streamers, heart-shaped balloons. Someone had brought in cupcakes. I remember thinking how perfect the timing was. Tomorrow I'd get my bonus check. Tomorrow my mother's nightmare would start to end. At 9:15, my desk phone rang. Richard's assistant. "Nicole, Mr. Thornton would like to see you in his office." I figured he wanted to go over the final details of the St. Catherine's contract, maybe discuss my next big target. I grabbed my notebook and headed to his office on the executive floor. Richard was sitting behind his massive oak desk, looking at his computer screen. He didn't smile when I walked in, didn't stand up, didn't offer me a seat. "Close the door," he said. I closed it, my stomach starting to tighten. Something felt wrong. "Sit down, Nicole." I sat. He turned away from his computer and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold, flat, empty. "I'm going to make this quick because I have meetings all day. Your employment with Meridian Biohealth is terminated effective immediately." The words didn't make sense. They were English words, arranged in a logical sentence, but my brain couldn't process them. "I'm sorry, what?" "You're fired, Nicole. We're letting you go." The room tilted. "Richard, I don't understand. I just closed the St. Catherine's deal. $40 million, the biggest contract in our history. Your performance over the past quarter has been unsatisfactory. We're moving in a different direction." Unsatisfactory. I actually laughed. It came out strangled, panicked. "I've exceeded my quota every single quarter for 3 years. I just brought in $40 million. The decision has been made." He slid a folder across the desk. "This is your termination paperwork. You'll receive 2 weeks severance pay. Security will escort you out. You have 30 minutes to pack your desk." My hands were shaking as I opened the folder. The termination letter was dated today. Reason for termination: failure to meet performance standards. This is insane. "Richard, you know this isn't true. You just took me to dinner 3 weeks ago and told me I was the future of this company." "Things change. Sign the paperwork, Nicole." "What about my commission? The St. Catherine's contract?" "You were terminated before the official contract signing date. According to company policy, commission is only paid to active employees at the time of contract execution. The signing is scheduled for February 15th. You will no longer be employed on that date. Therefore, you are not eligible for commission." The room was spinning now. February 15th. 2 days from now. He'd timed this perfectly. "You're firing me 1 day before Valentine's, 2 days before the contract signing, so you don't have to pay me my commission?" "I'm firing you because your performance has been inadequate. The timing is coincidental. Sign the paperwork." $900,000. My mother's treatment, her chance to live. Everything I'd worked for, sacrificed for, bled for over the past 6 months. Gone. "I'm not signing this." "Then you forfeit your severance pay. Either way, you're done here. Security is waiting outside." I stood up, my legs barely holding me. "You can't do this." I just did. "Goodbye, just Nicole." 2 security guards were indeed waiting outside his office. They escorted me back to my desk like I was a criminal. Everyone in the office watched as I packed my belongings into a cardboard box. my awards, my client files, the photo of my mother from before the cancer, when she still had hair and colour in her cheeks. I was walked out of the building I'd worked in for 8 years, out to the parking lot, with a box of my life in my hands and my career in ruins. I sat in my car and I cried. Not quiet, dignified crying, ugly, desperate sobbing. Because I didn't just lose my job, I lost my mother's lifeline. I lost her chance. How was I going to tell her? How was I going to explain that the treatment she needed, the hope I'd promised her, was gone because my boss decided to fire me one day before my bonus was due? If you're still watching, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because what happened next is going to blow your mind. I drove home in a daze. My mother was asleep, thank God. I couldn't face her yet. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the termination paperwork, trying to figure out what to do. I could call a lawyer, but wrongful termination cases take months, sometimes years. My mother didn't have years. I could call HR, but Richard was the regional vice president. Who was going to believe me over him? I felt helpless, powerless, destroyed. That night I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m, I got dressed and drove back to the office. I still had my security badge. They hadn't deactivated it yet. I told myself I just needed to get a few more personal items from my desk. Files I'd forgotten in the chaos of being escorted out. But really, I think I just needed to be there. To prove to myself it had really happened. That my career was really over. The office was empty, dark, eerie. I used my badge to get into the building, took the elevator up to the 3rd floor where my desk had been. I was packing the last few items when I heard voices coming from the executive floor. Male voices. One of them was Richard. I should have left, should have minded my business. But something made me walk toward the voices, toward Richard's office. The door was slightly open, light spilling into the dark hallway. I stood outside that door and I listened. "Baby, I told you. It's handled. I fired her this morning." Richard's voice, smooth and confident. "You're sure she can't fight it?" A woman's voice. Young, familiar. "She signed the termination papers. Even if she didn't, our legal team will bury her. She can't afford to fight Meridian." "So the bonus money is definitely yours?" "All mine. Once we sign the St. Catherine's contract on the 15th, that $900,000 commission comes straight to me. I'll tell the board I closed the deal myself. Nicole did all the groundwork, but she's not around to claim credit anymore." The woman laughed. "I can't believe you actually pulled it off. So we're really doing this? Maldives for 2 weeks? First-class flights, overwater bungalow, private chef, the works. I already booked it. We leave on Valentine's Day. What about your wife?" "What about her? I told Sharon I have a medical conference in Orlando. She doesn't check my credit card statements. By the time she figures anything out, we'll be back, and I'll have covered my tracks." My heart was pounding so hard, I thought they might hear it through the door. "Richard, you're terrible." The woman was giggling now. "Firing that poor woman just to steal her commission. She's not my concern. I needed that money, and I took it. That's how you get ahead in this business, Melissa. You take opportunities when they present themselves." Melissa, his executive assistant. 26 years old, fresh out of college, with long blonde hair and the kind of ambition that didn't care who got crushed along the way. "I should get going," Melissa said. "What time do you want me at the airport on Valentine's?" "Flight leaves at 6 p.m. Meet me at the lounge at 4:30. "I can't wait. 2 weeks in paradise with you." I heard movement. I quickly, I quietly moved away from the door and hid in the copy room across the hall. I watched through the crack as Melissa left Richard's office, straightening her skirt, touching her hair. Richard followed her to the elevator, kissed her at the doors, and then went back to his office. I stood in that dark copy room, my entire body shaking. But this time I wasn't shaking from fear or sadness. I was shaking from rage. Pure, white-hot, clarifying rage. Richard Thornton had looked me in the eye and destroyed my career, stolen my mother's lifeline, and ruined my life so he could take his mistress on a luxury vacation with money I'd earned. He'd smiled. He'd lied. He'd crushed me without a second thought. And he thought he'd gotten away with it. Drop a comment right now if you've ever wanted to get revenge on someone who wronged you. Let me know what you would do in this situation. And share this video, because what I'm about to tell you next is something everyone needs to hear. I left the office that night with a plan forming in my mind. If Richard thought I was just going to disappear quietly, he was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. I spent all of February 14th, Valentine's Day, gathering evidence. First, I went through every email I'd ever sent or received about the St. Catherine's deal, every presentation I'd created, every meeting I'd attended, every contract negotiation I'd led. I had documentation of everything. Every single thing that proved I was the one who'd closed that deal, not Richard. Then I called my contact at St. Catherine's, Dr. Patricia Walsh, their chief medical officer. "Nicole, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. This is absolutely unacceptable. Dr. Walsh, I need to ask you something. Did you ever work directly with Richard Thornton on this contract?" "Richard? No, honey. Every meeting, every negotiation, every conversation was with you. Richard showed up to exactly one meeting at the very end, shook some hands, and left. You're the one who made this deal happen. Would you be willing to put that in writing?" "Absolutely. And Nicole, between you and me, if Meridian thinks they can fire the person who actually did the work and then take credit for it, they're going to have a problem with St. Catherine's. We value integrity." Next, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I called Jennifer Martinez, the best employment attorney in the state, someone whose reputation for destroying corporate corruption was legendary. I told her everything. The timing of my termination, Richard's plan to claim my commission, what I'd overheard him say. "Do you have any proof of what you heard?" she asked. "Not yet, but I can get it." "Get it. Because if you can prove he terminated you specifically to steal your commission, that's not just wrongful termination. That's fraud. That's theft. That could be criminal." I went to the bank where I'd set up my mother's medical fund. I explained the situation to the manager, someone I'd known for years. "Nicole, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but Richard Thornton has been flagged in our system." "Flagged for what?" "Suspicious transactions, large cash withdrawals, transfers to offshore accounts, payments that don't match his salary profile. Our fraud department has been monitoring him for 3 months." Embezzlement. Richard wasn't just stealing my commission. He'd been stealing from the company for months, maybe years. "Can I get copies of those reports?" "Officially? No. Unofficially?" She slid a folder across her desk. "You didn't get this from me." By 8 p.m. on Valentine's Day, I had everything I needed. Documentation of my work on the St. Catherine's deal, testimony from Dr. Walsh, financial records showing Richard's suspicious activity, and a recording. That's right. I'd gone back to the office that afternoon, while Richard was picking up Melissa to head to the airport, and I'd installed a small voice-activated recorder in his office, the kind lawyers use for depositions, completely legal in our state as long as one party, me, knew about it. and it had captured everything. His phone calls about the Maldives trip, his conversations with Melissa about stealing my commission, his instructions to his assistant about how to falsify the records to make it look like he'd closed the St. Catherine's deal. Everything. At 9 p.m. on Valentine's Day, while Richard and Melissa were somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, drinking champagne in first class, heading to their luxury vacation funded by my stolen money, I made my first move. I called Sharon Thornton, Richard's wife. Mrs. Thornton, my name is Nicole Chen. I used to work with your husband at Meridian. I'm so sorry to bother you on Valentine's Day, but there's something you need to know. She was quiet for a long moment. He's not at a medical conference in Orlando, is he? No, ma'am, he's not. Where is he? He's on a flight to the Maldives with his executive assistant, Melissa Crawford. He'll be there for 2 weeks, at the Four Seasons, in an overwater bungalow. He paid for it with money he stole from me. Another long silence. Then, can you prove it? Yes, ma'am. All of it. I'll be at your house in 20 minutes. Text me your address. Sharon Thornton arrived at my door exactly 20 minutes later. She was 50 years old, elegant, composed. But her eyes were red and her hands were shaking. I showed her everything. The recordings, the evidence of the affair, the bank statements showing the luxury charges appearing on their joint credit card, the screenshots of Richard's text messages with Melissa that I'd found in his office computer. She listened to it all without speaking. When I finished, she looked at me with an expression I recognized, the same rage I'd felt standing outside Richard's office. He fired you to steal your commission so he could fund this trip. Yes. And your mother has cancer? Yes. How much was your commission? $900,000. Sharon closed her eyes. My daughter needs surgery, a spinal fusion. We've been trying to save up for it because our insurance won't cover the specific surgeon she needs. Richard told me we couldn't afford it, that we had to wait. She opened her eyes. He could have used that money to help our daughter. Instead, he spent it on his mistress. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Thornton. Don't be sorry. Help me destroy him. Let me know in the comments if Sharon made the right choice. And please share this video with anyone who's ever been betrayed. They need to see how this ends. On February 15th, the day the St. Catherine's contract was supposed to be signed, Sharon and I walked into Meridian's corporate headquarters together. But we didn't go to the regional office. We went straight to the executive floor, to the office of Margaret Holloway, the Chief Executive Officer of Meridian BioHealth. Margaret's assistant tried to stop us. You can't just walk in there. Do you have an appointment? No, Sharon said calmly. But trust me, she's going to want to hear this. We walked past the assistant and into Margaret's massive corner office. Margaret Holloway, 60 years old, a legend in the pharmaceutical industry, looked up from her desk with raised eyebrows. Can I help you? Ms. Holloway, my name is Nicole Chen. I was a senior sales representative until I was wrongfully terminated 2 days ago. This is Sharon Thornton, the wife of Richard Thornton, your regional vice president. And we have evidence that Mr. Thornton has been embezzling from this company, committing fraud, and stealing commission that belongs to me. Margaret's expression didn't change. Those are serious allegations. Yes, ma'am. And we can prove all of them. For the next hour, Sharon and I laid it all out. The recordings, the financial documents, the evidence of the affair, the testimony from Dr. Walsh at St. Catherine's, the proof that I'd closed the deal, not Richard, the bank records showing suspicious transactions. Margaret listened to everything. When we finished, she picked up her phone. Get legal in here, get HR in here, and get our fraud investigator in here. Now. By noon, Meridian's legal team had heard the recordings. By 2 p.m., their fraud investigator had reviewed the financial documents. By 4 p.m., they'd contacted federal authorities. At 6 p.m., while Richard and Melissa were lounging on a beach in the Maldives, completely unaware, Meridian's board of directors held an emergency meeting. At 8 p.m., I got a call from Margaret Holloway herself. Ms. Chen, effective immediately, you are reinstated to your position at Meridian Biohealth. Your termination has been voided and will be removed from your record. Your commission for the St. Catherine's contract, $900,000, will be deposited into your account tomorrow morning. Additionally, we are offering you $200,000 in damages for wrongful termination, and we are promoting you to Regional Vice President, effective immediately. I almost dropped the phone. I'm sorry, what? You closed the biggest deal in our region's history. You were wrongfully terminated by a corrupt manager who was defrauding this company. You brought evidence of that fraud to our attention. You deserve the position he held. It's yours if you want it. I want it. Good. There's one more thing. Richard Thornton will be arrested when he lands at JFK Airport tomorrow morning. We've coordinated with federal authorities. He's being charged with fraud, embezzlement, and theft. We estimate he's stolen approximately $3.2 million from this company over the past 4 years. He'll be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And Melissa Crawford? Terminated. We're considering charges against her as well for her role in the fraud. Thank you, Ms. Holloway. Thank you, Ms. Chen. See you Monday. I hung up the phone and I cried, but this time they were tears of relief. I walked into my mother's room. She was awake, reading a book. "Mom," I said, "I have some good news." The next morning, February 16th, Richard Thornton and Melissa Crawford landed at JFK Airport after their 14-hour flight from the Maldives. They walked through customs, tired, tanned, happy. And they were immediately arrested by federal agents. Sharon had filed for divorce that morning. The divorce papers were served to him while he was in handcuffs. The story made the news. Pharmaceutical executive arrested for multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Richard's mugshot was everywhere. His mistress's mugshot right next to it. My mother started her immunotherapy treatment that week. The experimental protocol at Johns Hopkins. The treatment that insurance wouldn't cover, but that $900,000 could buy. I started my new position as Regional Vice President. Richard's old office became my office. His old territory became my territory. His old salary became my salary. The trial was 8 months later. Richard tried to claim he'd done nothing wrong, that firing me was a business decision, that the money in his accounts was from legitimate investments. But the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the financial records, the testimony from me, from Sharon, from Melissa, who turned state's witness to get a lighter sentence, from Dr. Walsh, from dozens of Meridian employees who'd seen his corruption. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. Richard Thornton was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. He was ordered to pay back $3.2 million to Meridian, plus $900,000 to me in restitution, plus $2 million to Sharon in the divorce settlement. He lost everything: his job, his wife, his reputation, his freedom, his money. All because he tried to steal my commission to fund a vacation with his mistress. Melissa got 18 months and 3 years probation for her role in the fraud. Sharon took her settlement money and paid for her daughter's surgery. Then she started a non-profit helping women who'd been financially abused by their spouses. My mother's cancer went into remission 6 months after starting treatment. She's been cancer-free for almost 2 years now. And me? I'm still Regional Vice President at Meridian Biohealth. I've closed 4 more major contracts since then. I've built a team of incredible salespeople who I actually support and mentor instead of exploit. And I make sure every single one of them gets the commission they earn. Anytime it's Valentine's Day, I remember that year. The year my boss tried to destroy my life. The year he thought he could steal from me without consequences. The year he learned that underestimating someone is the biggest mistake you can make. Richard thought I was powerless. Thought I was just some employee he could dispose of. Thought I'd disappear quietly and let him get away with it. He was wrong. So if you're watching this and someone has ever tried to take what's yours, tried to destroy what you've built, tried to crush you because they thought you wouldn't fight back, I want you to know something. Fight back. Gather your evidence. Build your case. Find your allies. And when you're ready, strike with everything you have. Don't get mad. Get even. Get justice. Get everything they tried to take from you and more. Because people like Richard Thornton count on you being too scared, too tired, too broken to fight. They count on getting away with it. Prove them wrong. Before you go, hit that like button if this story satisfied your need for justice. Subscribe to this channel for more real revenge stories every week, and share this video with anyone who needs to be reminded that the powerful don't always win. Sometimes the person they tried to destroy becomes the one who destroys them. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what you would have done in my situation. I love hearing from you. Thank you for watching. And remember, karma isn't just real. Sometimes karma needs a little help. Be the help. Happy Valentine's Day.